Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. Good morning, good afternoon, or whatever time of day it is. I hope you're having a good day. I'm popping by because it's absolutely pouring down here in Cheshire. It's raining, it's blowing, no chance of any gardening. Not that I could garden anyway. I helped my daughter to move into her new flat yesterday. And to say I can't move today is the understatement of the century, I think. Oh, I ache all over. I think even my fingers ache from lifting boxes and things. You know, when your fingers feel funny because you can't grab hold of something. Oh, I ache all over. So I thought, why don't we just have a play? Because I can't go outside. I'm not in the mood for doing anything else. So let's just have a little play. No ideas in mind. And what I've done is I've pulled out two products. No, I haven't. Oh, I have. I thought I'd just pulled the packaging out. So I've pulled out Snippet Stencil 1 tweet, and I've pulled out the Auricula stamp. And I thought, let's go for something really simple, nothing too complicated, and just enjoy a little play. And that's why we craft, really, because we enjoy creating. I personally don't create for speed. The whole point for me is that this is a hobby and I create because I enjoy creating. It's not about, oh, you can make this in 5 seconds or you can make this in a flash. It's more about enjoying the process for me. And that's what my YouTube channel and my inspiration is all about. It's about embracing your hobby when you have the time to embrace your hobby. And when you have the time, if you've got 20 minutes, then we should enjoy those 20 minutes. It's not about, quick, let's get this done. Even if you can only create an inky background in 20 minutes, I think it's better to put that on one side and then come back to it, because at least you've created everything with your hands and it's so satisfying. That's for me personally. I think it's really satisfying to create something from scratch. And for me, stamps, I love stamps because if I create something and you take inspiration from that, even if you create the exact same thing, it looks different because you've made it with your fair hands. And the way you apply ink might be different to the way I apply ink. Where you position things might be different to where I position things. And that's what makes this hobby such fun. And that's why I'm always going to be an ambassador for stamps. And that's why I'll always design stamps, because they are so versatile, especially if you bring stamps out that you can use in, year out. They're just so versatile. So where are we going to begin? Well, when I'm unsure of where I'm going to begin, I decide on the stamps. So I've got my stamp, and we'll just place that on our acrylic block. And if I can't decide exactly where I'm going, first of all, I'm going to decide whether I want 1 or 2 images. I think we'll have 2 images. So I'm going to use my Versafine Clair Nocturne ink, which I've added the date to. I started using this on the 15th of January. And I haven't re-inked it or bought a new one yet. I tend to, if I'm crafting, I'll leave it just uppermost like this for a while. But I use my inks probably nearly every day. So I had a good amount of ink on that. I know a lot of you like to use the re-inkers. So you can re-ink your Versafine Clair inks if you wish. So I'm going to ink my stamp. And as always, I will repeat the processes because I think it's important to get into good habits. If you get into good habits, you'll have less and less frustrations. I think when we sort of educate and say everything has to be done in 5 minutes, that's when you make mistakes. It's supposed to be enjoyable. So just make sure that you just give that quite a few tappings of ink and make sure you get a really good layer of ink. I'm using Pink Frog Smooth Card, and it's 4 inches by 6 inches, and I'm using it this way. So I'm going to add my stamp here, there, yeah, this is where I faff. And I often faff more if I'm going off the cuff because you're messing around with ideas. So I always keep these fingers on my stamp. Don't lift them up or else you'll get rocking. Always leave some fingers on your acrylic block and on your stamp. And I know for some of you who are used to my channel, it's like teaching you to suck eggs. But there are always new ladies and gentlemen that are joining social media or maybe wanting to get into the hobby. And I think it's important that we continue to reiterate those good habits. So let's just allow that ink just to absorb onto that card base. Now there's no ink on there at the moment, so the card is more absorbent. So let's just lift our stamp. Now what I notice about this, now we're going to go through everything. Let me just grab another piece of card, which is easier said than done. Right, is this the same size? Yes. So now I'm at the stage where my ink is a little bit, it's not quite, it's fading a little bit, and I can see that. So for me, I will just grab a new ink pad. You can re-ink yours if you wish. I keep some of these sort of more drier ink pads for different techniques like stamp on stamp. So I keep these inks for that. So I don't bin them, I keep them for that. Let's just grab another ink pad. And I've always got a new ink pad in my drawer. So this ink pad will be used for other techniques. So I have these for years. So you can use your re-inkers if you wish. And then what I do is grab my pen. And always wonder what date it is because I never know the date, ever. So let's have a look at the date. So it's the 9th of April. So I will put the 9th of April on here, just so that I know. And because I'm using mine day in, day out, constantly, for me, January, February, March, 3 months-ish is fine for me because I'm using it continually. But a cheaper way to use your ink pads is you can re-ink them, and re-inkers are readily available. So for me, that's a little bit faded. You can still use that, no problem at all. I'll probably use that for another idea where I want some grey stamping. So I'm going to take my new ink pad. Now, when you first use a new ink pad, it is very, very juicy. So let's take this new ink pad. And you can see, even when it's a new ink pad, can you see that I still tap over the ink pad many times? So let's just... What's hilarious is I've put the heating on again. And again, I'm having that problem where I'm either boiling hot or freezing cold, no in between at all. So at the moment, I'm now boiling hot. Oh dear. I like to tell you my life story while I am stamping. That's me all over. So let's just... And you can see, even when it's a juicy ink pad, I'm not rushing that process. Now, I can see now I've got a clean, crisp image with that black ink. Neither of them are incorrect. It's just what look you are going for. So let's just wipe. Now, because that is a brand new ink pad, and I do it anyway, I'll take a piece of copier paper and I'm just going to blot that ink. Mainly because it's a new ink pad, so I'm just getting rid of... I don't know whether you can see that. It's going to be difficult for you to see that. There is a there you go, there's a shadow there. That's just the top layer of the ink. I'm then going to grab my masks, and now I can create some new masks because I had a lovely gift from my lovely online friend Lynn Lindsay, who sent me these masking sheets. How kind is that? So I can now create some more masks that are going to last me even longer. So kind. So that's another job for sort of a weekend when I have an hour spare, and then I'll create some masks because they're so useful to have masks. So let's have a look at my paper masks that I've got. Hope we've got an auricular. Yes, we have. So we've got an auricular, and I normally sort of while away an hour and create some masks when I get some new stamps. It's just good to create them. So I've now got my auricular mask, which I can't tell which way it goes. There you go. So I can place my mask over the top. And again, you can see I'm not rushing any of the processes. So I'm then going to re-ink my stamp. And again, even when it's a juicy ink pad, I don't rush. So we'll then take this one here, like so. And again, even though that's a beautifully juicy ink pad, I'm just going to give that time just to grab hold of the surface. And just give it a few moments. Don't lift too quickly. You lift too quickly and then you won't get a good impression, even with a juicy ink pad, because you've got these darker areas here. So you just need to be aware of that you've got those dark areas here. Let me just check what colour that is. And even if you miss a little bit, you can just go in, this is a biro, and just put in your little bit of detail. Don't always think that, oh no, that's a mistake, I've got to start all over again. No, you don't. So I'm going to place my mask back because I don't want to lose those because they always come in handy. So I'll just keep those in a little wallet. So let's just blot this image again. And if you blot the image, that just takes the first layer of ink from there. And I can still see a shadow on there. That's lovely. And you can just see the detail of that beautiful stamp. Now, whatever you stamp first, when you apply the mask to whatever is stamped first, the image that is stamped second goes behind that for your masking. Now, because I'm going to add some colour with my oxides, I want to make sure that this is fully dry. Now, why do I want to make sure that it's fully dry? Because as I blend those inks, I will just smudge the black ink, particularly with it being a new ink pad. So I'm really going to give that a really good dry. Normally, I wouldn't bother, but sometimes I do, depending on what technique I'm applying to the card. So I'm just going to give that a really good dry. Now, sometimes you think it's dry and it isn't. But what I do again is just go over again and just blot. And for me, when you're doing a project, it is worth just taking that time. And now I've got no ink coming off there. So what I'm thinking now is having my little bird over the floral so that these stay in black and white and the bird has the colour over the top. Now, I keep getting up and down, up and down. Talking about good practices, sometimes when you're demonstrating, and say like me, you've been doing it for quite a while now, you'll wing it, so you'll hold your stencil. If you're not happy doing that, then just apply some low tack tape. Not completely over the beard, Tracy. Let's try again. So do I want it there? There. You will also see on my YouTube channel, Tracy does a lot of faffing. So let's just grab a pair of scissors. So I've now got my beard on there and it won't move. If you're worried about getting ink on this side, you can use your low tack tape again, if you wish, or I just place a piece of copier paper down there, then it stops me just putting my mucky fingers on there and affecting that side of the card. So what I'm going to do then is just add some colours. So I'm going to use my mustard seed. So I'll take some mustard seed. You can use a sponge from the kitchen, a makeup sponge, a blending brush, anything you wish. And what I'm going to do is just add a little bit of this colour here and there, just over the card. So I'm just adding it randomly over the card. So I'm not thinking about it too much. So that's mustard seed. I'm then going to take picked raspberry. So we'll take some picked raspberry. Now, as the picked raspberry touches the yellow, you're going to get some orange tones. But that's lovely. That's just what I like. So, and some, depending how often you use your inks, you may need to apply more layers of ink if you've got a certain ink pad that you use way more than another ink pad. So you just need to be aware of that. So that's the picked raspberry. I'm then going to use a little bit of candied apple. So any red, doesn't matter. You can use your oxides or your inks, whichever you prefer. A little bit of red. Let's have a little bit of red here. And a little bit of red there. So that's the candied apple. And then I'm going to use a little bit of wilted violet. So then we'll use a little bit of wilted violet. So just take your time on where you add your colours. So just, and be aware of where you can create mud. You know, you don't want to create mud. Let's have a little bit of purple just here as well. There we go. And then I'm going to go back to a little bit of the yellow. And I'm just going to add a little bit more of the yellow. And what I'm doing is I'm adding layers of that colour. That's all I'm doing, just adding layers of that colour. And then I think what I'll do is I'll just add a touch more pink or picked raspberry so that you know what colour I'm using. There we go. So let's just move these colours all out of the way. And we'll grab a little bit of kitchen roll just so that we've got that ready. Go. And I'm just grabbing a dry piece of kitchen roll because then I can just blot up any moisture. I'm then going to spritz from high up. So I'm just going to hold that down and I'm just going to spritz from high up. I'm just going to give that a few moments before I blot it. Now, I've got colour on there. So what I'm going to do is, rather than just put my kitchen roll on there straight away, which seems such a shame when I've got some colour on there. There's a little bird on that one. I have that many backgrounds. but I've got some ink on there, so I'm just going to just place a piece of card on there, just in case I can get another image from that excess ink that is on the card. You never know, and it doesn't matter if I don't. But you can see I've now got an extra image that I can actually use as a background element to my card. So just beautiful. Always ways to create those extra backgrounds. And now what I can do is just blot up the extra moisture, because obviously my card won't do that. So we can remove our copy of paper, and then let's remove our stencil. Ooh, there we go. Just so you can see, you've now got your little bird. So let's just blot, just to make, you could probably get another print from this. Let's just see. I'll just use my copy of paper and let's see if we could get another print from that. I can do the experimenting and then you can add to your card. So absolutely I can get another print, and I can actually place that copy of paper onto my card blank, tear around it, and then I'll have another idea for a card. So then I'll clean my stencil because there'll be nothing on there, and on the fine bits sort of wipe away. So you can see, even from what I was using, you can see that there was quite a bit on there. You could then turn this around, which is exactly what we're going to do. We're going to turn this around, but this will only be part of the bird. Let's make sure that our stencil is quite dry. So we'll just place this around about, it doesn't have to be perfect. There we go. Let's grab our low tack tape again, just so that we can hold that card down. I could use the low tack tape I had before, but the reason I didn't use the low tack tape from before is if it's got a little bit of ink on there, I don't want ink where in some space where I don't necessarily want it. So I've got my clean copy of paper now and place this over the top. So then we'll repeat our process. So don't look at this one, because then you'll lay it down differently. If you leave this one showing, what you ought to, it's just natural. You automatically copy where you've put the ink on that side. It's just what happens. So I'm just covering that up so that I don't add the inks in exactly the same place. So we've got our mustard seed. I'm then going to take picked raspberry. So we'll take our picked raspberry, and you automatically don't apply it in the same place, and then it looks slightly different, which is lovely. So we're then going to add the candied apple. So we'll add a little bit of the candied apple, maybe a little bit there. So a little bit of the candied apple. And then we'll take a little bit of that wilted violet. Now, wilted violet is quite a strong colour, so just be aware that it is quite strong, quite powerful, especially if, you know, you haven't used it maybe as much as the other colours. So what I can do now, I will hold that down, and then I will spritz lightly with water. Now, rather than, like I said before, try and mop that up with the kitchen roll, which is a waste of the colour, I'll then pick up another piece of card. So I've got that many pieces of card that have got backgrounds on them. Actually trying to find a piece of card that hasn't got something on it is actually a miracle in my room. There we go. So now I can mop up some of that moisture just onto this card. Doesn't matter what ink you get on the back of the card, it's not going to be seen. And again, you can see I'm not lifting that up too quickly. Again, another beautiful background for another card, and I will definitely use them. And then I could probably even get another print on the copier paper. But I didn't spritz this with water again, so there might not be much on there. No, there's not too much on there, so that's perfect. But you could literally spritz it again and maybe get some more colour off there. So let's move that out of the way. So you've seen me do it now. I've got the tape stuck to me. I've got some colour on there. You could quite easily just spritz that again, and then you could end up with another print. Let's just, okay. Just so you can see that. And little splodges like this is just adding to the whole effect of the card. Don't, worry about, oh, I've got a splosh there. There's always ways to work around it and make it part of the design. So don't stress too much. But doesn't that just look lovely? I think that looks really nice. Just so lovely. And I'm not going to go around the bird with a black pen because I've got this black here and I don't want to detract from that colour. I think it's really lovely. Now, so for instance, you've got little splodges here, so that looks like it's part of your design. Let's take our brush. Let's first of all make sure it's clean and we don't contaminate with another colour. So we'll take the candied apple and then we'll just add a few little splatters so that it all sort of feels part of the design, the splatters and the marks, just a few little splatters. We'll clean that one up. And then we'll add a little bit of the purple, which is the wilted violet. And that's the whole point of the oxides and the inks, they move. So that's the whole point of them. So let's just add a few purple. And if you don't like splatters, don't do them. This is your artwork. So let's just clean up. Now, I find, obviously, if you're using the inks, the splatters go a lot further than if I'm just using my Posca pen. Spit it out, Tracy. So I can now see that I've got a few splatters in the same colour, in the rainbow colours. I'm going to take a little bit of the mustard seed now, but obviously I need to be aware I've just used purple on my brush, so I need to make sure that that is clean to keep my colours clean. And with the purple, it's quite strong, so I might need to rinse that a few times. Absolutely fine. Then I'm going to add some of the yellow, but obviously I haven't got enough water on there. There you go. And then what you've got the colours that are in the foreground are echoed in the background, so it all then becomes cohesive, as if you've thought about the design so that it follows through. No idea where my lid is to that pen, just so you can see that. So let's just give this a little bit of a dry. And you end up with a nice sort of simple card. Just give that a dry. Oops. Just bend that slightly, just so that my card goes exactly where I want it to go. Just beautiful, nice and simple. And then I'm going to use the auricular text here. And we'll just add that to a piece of spare white card. And I love that you can just come up for half an hour into your room and you can create a project, and it's just a lovely way, especially when it's windy and rain outside, just to while away an hour. And then even if you give that card to a friend, or if you don't pass cards on, you can put it into your journal and then you can look back on that to create something again. Just grab my scissors. My scissors just move from one room to another, really. So let's just sit. Now I'm going to add a little bit of a black mat to this. Just gone off a little bit there. Doesn't look quite right. There we go. Say that you're not happy with your cutting out. Distress the edges, and then between me and you, nobody knows that it's not perfection, because it looks like it's meant to be slightly distressed. Your secret's safe with me. Right. What if you don't like using your Posca pen to add a black outline? You can obviously mat and layer onto a card. What happens if you don't know how to, you can't cut very straight? So say I'm not even measuring it up against the sentiment. So I'm just cutting randomly. So say you've just got a spare piece of scrap card. Well, make it look like it's meant to be. So make it slightly off so that you get sort of, let me just see now. Let me cut that a little bit shorter. And you make it look so that it's part of the design, just to be not perfect. So let's grab, I haven't got my adhesive either. You can tell I hadn't planned to do a card because I've got nothing out. So say you don't want to move that because you think, oh, it's in the exact place. Just add a little bit of adhesive on one side. And then when that grabs hold, you can then add the adhesive underneath the other side if you've got it in exactly the right place. So let's just, that's it. So what you do is you make that quirky feel of the sentiment part of the design. So I'm then going to add the auricular just here. So we'll just add our auricular. And if you add too much adhesive, you know, it's swimming around everywhere, just dab it onto a piece of card and that will take the excess adhesive off. And if you can just give that a few seconds, just so that that grabs hold of the card, it won't be moving around. Now, obviously, we've got oxides on there, and I'm going to add a little bit of shading under this. I'm going to use my Inktense pencil. If you haven't got an Inktense pencil, use your Distress Oxide, your watercolours, your anything that's water reactive that you can blend. So let's just, so now I've got those oxides on there. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, make sure that my brush is clean. Now, I've used yellow on there, so it isn't clean. So I'm just waiting for that water to run clear. There we go. And then I'll take off the excess water onto a piece of kitchen roll. And I'll sort of just touch the Inktense so that it hardly reacts the Distress Oxide. There we go. Now, lovely simple idea, not too complicated, and the only dimensional piece is your wording. And if you didn't want to add the wording, then you don't have to. It's entirely up to you. So I like adding little sort of bits and pieces to my projects. It just makes me happy. So just bear with me. It doesn't matter how many times I look for these things. I never quite find exactly what I'm looking for. Right. So I'm going to take one of my little tiny Tim Holtz Bulldog clips. Now, if you haven't got the Bulldog clip, why not use a little paper clip? It's entirely up to you. Now, I'm just going to add my little Bulldog clip just here. Now, you could have attached it to the actual cutout piece if you want, because they actually open. But I'm simply just going to add some adhesive behind the Bulldog clip, just so it appears as if it's on that sentiment. And it just gives me another little quirky touch. You can find your own quirky touches, or none at all if you prefer your card not to have them. Now, obviously, when this is just, I need it to set hard rather than try to adhere onto a piece of card. So I'll just give that a couple of seconds. But you can see that once you add that to your black mat, it really pops. So now I'm going to risk it for a biscuit, and I'm just going to add my adhesive. And I will just get one part of that sort of ready, and then I pick my card up, and then I will make sure that it just all sticks down. And I'll just spend a couple of minutes faffing, mainly because the card has been heated with a heat tool, so it has a slight bend to it. So I sort of convince the card that it needs to be flat and stuck. So I just take a few moments just to do that. And it's where you've added moisture that the card is just slightly bent. So I'm just making sure that the adhesive in the centre is dry. I'm then going to add that to a 5 by 7 inch card blank. So my black mat is 1/4 of an inch bigger, but my card blank is slightly bigger because it's a 5 by 7 to give me a bigger mat and layer. We'll just add that to our project. And you can see how you can just add lovely elements to a card in no time at all, and it's really satisfying. You don't have to have anything too complicated. I'm now going to add some white splatters. You can use your gesso, you can use your bleed proof product so that those splatters stay white. Entirely up to you. So just adding a few little splatters here and there, and make sure you get a few just on the black mat, just here and there. There we go. And we'll just wipe around our card just so that we don't get that on our card. And then, that isn't a piece, I've got no clean copy paper. Let's just bring this down so we don't place that on the wet surface. And then if we bring this up, I just think that's a really fun card. Nice, simple ideas, not too complicated, and once again shows just how versatile your stamps and stencils are. So I hope you've enjoyed that, and I hope you'll give it a try. I look forward to seeing your interpretation. Love to all, and I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.